Brentford 1, Manchester United 1. Not actually a bad point away on the road for Manchester United, but the performance was absolutely horrendous. Manchester United incredibly fortunate to get anything from this game because, let's be honest, they were terrible. This is up there with the worst performances that I have seen from this Manchester United side. It was honestly an absolute disgrace. The only reason we stayed in this game was because of poor finishing from Brentford. They hit the woodwork 3, if not 4 times, I believe, in the end, and some good saves from Onana. But tactically, individually, really, really bad. So let's get into it, and we'll start off with the tactical side of the game. And we're going to focus initially on Manchester United out of possession, because this was amateurish. It was genuinely pathetic from players, but also from the manager, more so the manager. So, when Brentford look to play the ball out from the back from goal kicks, they're a pretty good side, but they're not blessed with elite technical players everywhere. However, they recognise the weakness in the Manchester United structure, like most teams have this season. Jorgensen drops one side, other centre-back drop the other side, and Collins moves to more of a left-back position, allowing Lewis Potter to move further forward. What is the effect of this? Well, before we focus on how Brentford are going to play short, we need to focus on what is going on further up the pitch in the long duel situations. So we've got Whistler is on Lindelof, and Varane is on Ivan Toney. So what we can see is that these two basically can't join the press too much because they are being focused here. So there's not too much work they can do. If Toney dropped deep, Varane would follow him, but we can't use these players as spare players. The other thing we've got is Lewis Potter pushing forward has pinned Diogo Dalot. Now, you might say Dalot could push higher, and Lindelof can deal with it, but then we've got Whistler free. So Lindelof, Varane have to stay deep, but so does Dalot. So that's clever from Brentford. Because then what happens is United use their usual pressing structure. Brentford play out to the right-hand side. Højlund comes over like so. United then go man-for-man in midfield. Bruno Fernandes will squeeze high. We'll have McTominay here as well. And then Kobbie Mainoo a little bit deeper normally like this. What we can see, though, is that down here we have a 2 versus 1 situation. Garnacho has 2 players to mark. So, as this ball goes backwards, this is the trigger for Garnacho to come inside. There's a glaring problem here. We haven't got pressure on the goalkeeper, and he's got a free pass, a free player. That's tactically an awful thing to happen. We've got Wan-Bissaka on the far side. This isn't a criticism of him, but on the far side, essentially marking no one, basically. No one, because Ten Hag has tactically just got it that wrong. So what happens is Flekken can easily go into Jensen, and he can play a bounce pass round to Collins, something we are really bad at dealing with, or Flekken can just go direct. Now, what happens after this is that this player starts to carry the ball forward, and Scott McTominay recognises, okay, I can't just let him run the whole pitch. Dallow's been pinned back over here, so I've got to go engage. So he comes out, and now we open up massive gaps in the midfield, and it allows Brentford to move forward and completely destroy us. And this happened all game long, but there is a particular scenario I want to look at because it really captures it nicely. I say nicely, horribly, from a United perspective. So we can see the pressing structure here. United are man-for-man here. We've got man-for-man here in midfield. Bruno Fernandes is marking the guy just behind me. And then what we also have is Marcus Rashford down the bottom here looking to go this way, dealing with the wing-back who's dropped a little bit deeper. But what we can see is that Garnacho, marked here, is looking to come inside. United do this always. We've done it last season as well. He's looking to come inside. But when Brentford eventually recycle the ball, they move the ball about, we can see that Garnacho is incredibly narrow, and Flekken in goal has a very, very simple pass to this wide area, and there is no one over here. One of the reasons there is no one over here is because, as I've said already, Dalot has been pinned back, so he can't go join it, and Garnacho is narrow. We can see him over here. Now, Garnacho is an incredibly hard-working player out of possession. Although he did look tired in this game, understandable, he played for Argentina the other day, in the early hours of the morning as well. But Garnacho actually does alright initially. He now tracks back, gets towards Collins, and as we can see, forces the ball backwards. Well done, Garnacho. Look at the clock. 23:03. So United have just about recovered. It's a horrible press, but Garnacho's hard work gets United back into an okay position. 23:03 top left. Now, let's fast forward at 6 seconds. We are now at 23:09. So this is pretty much in the same phase of play, arguably. The ball has been worked backwards to the centre-back here, and United re-engage in man-to-man fashion. Højlund is here on the centre-back, Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay man-for-man in midfield, and Bruno here, just before it, he has told Garnacho to come press the centre-back once again. So Garnacho does as he's told, basically, and he joins the press over here. What happens is that Brentford work the ball backwards. We can see that Garnacho has been dragged inside, and now once again, the ball goes wide to literally an unchallenged player. So this is twice in about 6, 7, 8 seconds by the time it actually happens. The same issue. So this highlights that it isn't a personnel issue. The players aren't the problem here. Tactically, it is just awful. Really, really bad. And we see the effect of it on this occasion. Collins gets the ball. McTominay realises he's got a lot of ground to cover. Initially, he was man-to-man over here. But now he's got a lot of ground to cover to go and cover this wide space. We can see up here also, Dalot being pinned back. So Scott McTominay puts the hard yards in. He tracks back. He gets himself over towards the ball to try and apply pressure. He arguably doesn't turn quickly enough, but the bigger problem is Kobbie Mainoo is still tied up man-to-man here. Bruno Fernandes has still been man-to-man here and has now realised the issue. But because Scott McTominay, the midfielder, is kind of meant to be protecting and patrolling these spaces, we have this massive open space. So just one pass in here takes out our whole team. And it allows him to get on the turn, play the ball forward first time. Ivan Toney runs through to hit the post. Should he score? Arguably, but it's a really, really good chance. And this was the problem all day long for Manchester United. And my big criticism is it wasn't just a problem all day last night. It's been the problem for pretty much every game this season. And even dating back to last season, I was criticising this. Now, we can look at the players. We've done this on live stream. Join streams, by the way. They're really good fun. We've assessed that United don't have the midfielders to necessarily always play a high press. And we don't necessarily have the centre-backs to always play a high press. Particularly when they both come off injured as well, it doesn't help. But to have the same tactical problem, literally the same tactical problem, 18 months later, is unacceptable. It is truly unacceptable. So what we've now got is players set up in an awful position. They're going to really struggle from here. What then happened on top of this, though, was that the players were poor individually, particularly out of possession, winning duels. They were just poor. They just didn't win their duels. I think Højlund had 1 out of 10, which, that includes in possession and out of possession, but it's not exactly great. Garnacho had 2 out of 4, which isn't too bad, but I believe we had McTominay on something like 1 out of 4. I can't actually remember. The stat will be on screen here. But the midfielders' dual winning percentages were not very good. United were out-battled, really, in midfield. But not just midfield, all over the pitch. United were out-battled. So we've got Ten Hag has put them in a really poor structure, and then the players haven't delivered either. You could argue they're both effects of each other. The structure was never going to be good if the players didn't perform, but the players were never going to perform if the structure wasn't good. You see what I'm saying? You see the problem here. But it was just absolutely terrible. It was absolutely terrible from a defensive point of view, and it leads to a stat like this, which is an absolute embarrassment. An absolute embarrassment to Manchester United as a football club, and Erik Ten Hag should be ashamed of himself. That cannot happen. Brentford had 85 touches in the Manchester United box last night, the most any team has managed in the Premier League in the last 5 years. Now, I don't mean to be disrespectful, we are talking about Brentford, whose form has been horrendous recently. I've watched back a load of their games to do my preview for this game. They've been really poor, they've been really passive, they've struggled to have any control on any games, much attacking threat. Defensively, they've been poor. Yet when Manchester United come into town, they can do this. Not because they were incredible suddenly, but because we were so bad. Thomas Frank must have been looking forward to this fixture, licking his lips, knowing that we were going to set up in this way and that he was just going to tear us apart. And the worst thing is that it doesn't change during the game. Top managers, we're going to watch Arsenal Manchester City later. And they're going to be without some key players. But what will happen is there will be constant little tactical tweaks throughout the game. A player will find himself in space, so the other manager will react and try and address it. And then that's going to create space somewhere else. So then the other manager reacts, and there's going to be constant reactions, tactical changes. When we watch this United side, it's the same problem. This continued throughout the game. There was a situation in the second half where Anthony's on for Garnacho in the latter stages, and the exact same thing happens, the exact same pressing structure. Again, showing that it is not the fault of individuals, it is the fault of a terrible, terrible pressing system. Absolutely awful. And it left United in such a bad place. And when you defend this badly, it doesn't matter how good you are on the ball. United set up in possession, I thought was okay in phases. I thought we struggled to get out from the back, but that's understandable because Brentford are a good pressing side, but they are also good at dealing with the long ball. It leaves you stuck a little bit. But when United got out of the press, they were actually okay. We had Varane and Lindelof, Dalot and Kobbie Mainoo Dalot and Wan-Bissaka both tucked in a little bit. They didn't fully invert next to Kobbie, which I probably would have done if I was the manager, again, as I said in my preview. But it wasn't a bad shape in possession from United. We had these two fullbacks slightly tucked in. We allowed McTominay and Bruno Fernandes to go higher, and Brentford were in the exact shape that we predicted, that we expected. And as a result, United got into good areas. You know, Dalot did find himself in these positions. We had Bruno Fernandes in these positions. We had him in these positions on this side as well. Marcus Rashford was there occasionally also. So we were okay in possession. Again, I think individuals struggled a little bit. It wasn't our sharpest performance. It's disappointing, but it happens. But actually, structurally, we were okay in possession. It weren't too bad. We were in okay areas of the pitch. The problem I had personally was that Garnacho kept coming inside, leaving us with little width on the right-hand side. That was a problem. But I feel that if we had been really good defensively in this game, then our offensive approach in this match, I do feel that eventually we would have worn them down and we would have scored. The problem is that we cannot sustain pressure because we are so bad defensively that when we lose the ball, it's pretty much in our box. That's the problem. If you can sustain pressure, control a game, this structure is not perfect, but it's fine. It can really hurt Brentford, this structure can. It's very capable of doing that. But only if you sustain pressure. Control the ball in the final third of the pitch. You don't let Brentford out. Whereas again, as we've seen a couple of times already, it was unbelievably easy for Brentford to play out from the back because defensively we are so poor. So we are never going to look like a side which can control and dominate possession. Not because our players are too direct, but because we are so bad defensively. That's the bigger issue here. That is the bigger picture. Yes, Casemiro gives it away a lot. Bruno Fernandes gives it away a lot. Marcus Rashford tries maybe too many dribbles at times. Although, I'm not sure he did in this game. That is a problem. But the bigger problem is that when we lose the ball, it's basically in our third of the pitch. It's basically in our penalty area. That's why we can't sustain pressure. Not because of our players not keeping the ball. And that's a real problem. And that is an Erik Ten Hag problem. And I don't know what the solution is between now and the end of the season. But Ten Hag has to find it. If not, he will not be the man to succeed at Manchester United. Because yes, again, we can question the players. The profiles of the players, absolutely. We've done it here on the channel. But at the end of the day, as Manchester United manager, your job is to get the best out of your players. And Ten Hag doesn't do that. Or hasn't done that. And didn't do it in this game. And it's really, really concerning. Really concerning. But it's the same old problems. So there's no more to say, really. So I am going to stop there. Now it's over to you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What disappointed you the most about this? The one positive was Mason Mount. Really well taken goal. Hopefully that kicks him on now for the rest of the season and his Manchester United career. But apart from that, it's terrible. Nothing good to take about it. So I am going to stop there. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Is that the word? I'm not sure. Hope you have enjoyed it though. But we're finished. So, yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.